Great. Well, I'll be moderating this session. We wanted to mix it up and have a founder moderate for investors instead of investor moderating for founders. So first, wanted to just have you guys both introduce yourselves and kind of how you're thinking about AI part of the stack.
Is your mic working?
Not yet. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Go ahead.
Why don't you go and start?
Okay, sure. All right. Intros. My name is Casey. I run a fund called Topology, where we invest in frontier tech, with crypto AI being a large focus of such. And quick career history was that I was mostly an engineer for the longer part of my career, and then got into venture, and most recently was at Paradigm.
Oh, okay. So I'm Haseeb. I'm a managing partner at Dragonfly. By the way, can you guys hear me okay, or are these mics like terrible?
There is a little bit of an echo up here, so I'm glad to hear that.
Okay, cool. Because from up here, it's very, I can barely hear myself. So I'm managing partner at Dragonfly. I think the second part of your question was, what do I think about what's going on in AI?
You want us to do that all with our intro?
You want to do the whole thing?
You can
Do
kind
the
of
whole
give
panel
a
in your
high
opening
level,
question.
like sort of context of how you are even coming into AI or thinking about AI.
How I'm coming into AI. So I come into AI, I will say, slightly disappointed in myself. Okay, and here's what I mean by that. When I was just having this conversation with somebody yesterday, is that ChatGPT is now 2.5 years old. Okay. I remember when GPT-3 first came out, before ChatGPT, when it was still like you had to go into the playground and like do all this stuff with like Da Vinci and all that shit. Like I remember at that time being convinced that it was probably going to take maybe a year until the world would be unrecognizable, right? Like unemployment was going to hit 15%, like it was going to be fucking crazy. And here we are 2.5 years later, and look around, you know? It really could be 2022 right now, you know, like nothing really seems like it's that different, except my emails are now have much better grammar. And it's surprising how much we got wrong, the change of pace, and how quickly things would actually get transformed relative to what's actually changed in the world. That I've been reflecting a lot lately about this saying in Silicon Valley, which is very common, which is that people underestimate what can happen in 10 years. And they overestimate what can happen in 2 years. And it reminds me very much of in 2018, I was having this conversation with somebody who's formerly at Dragonfly about stablecoins. Because 2018 was when I first got really stablecoins. 2018 was when I first really got bullish on stablecoins. And I remember telling him at that time that the whole world is going to change. Right? Like in 2018, I was telling him that international payments and commerce and like there's going to be currencies collapsing because of how much stablecoins are going to go global. And within nothing happened 2 years later. And now things are actually happening. Right? But like this is 7 years later from when to me it was so obvious that this was all going to happen. So I'm reflecting a lot about the way in which technology diffusion is completely unintuitive, about how long it takes and how easy it can be for certain people to be living in the future compared to everyone else around them. And that's probably mostly the people in this room with respect to not just stablecoins, but with respect to AI. You know, like my mom was just telling me how excited she was that she got her ChatGPT voice mode to explain to her how to get a recipe right. And I'm like, I've been doing this for years now, literally.
I was actually with one of our investors earlier today, and I came over to their house and they were like, can you help me download ChatGPT?
Your investors.
And I was like, this is insane. And so we downloaded ChatGPT and they were like, okay, great. And so, you know, how do we use it? What not? And then the distinction between, and then they go, yeah, like, can you explain to me what MCP is and who made that? And I just had this moment where I was like, holy fuck, like I live in a bubble. And these are the people that are giving us capital to deploy into these founders. And so I'm with you.
It's good that you're deploying capital into the founders, not them, because it sounds like you know a lot more about the market. That makes sense.
You want to call out which LP this was?
Sort of big different, yeah.
Cannot hear. Have to
okay, that's okay.
You're fine. You're fine.
So I guess to the question of mainstream adoption and like how AI and kind of these general trends are going to reach a much broader audience, what AI products do you think are going to work? And what role is crypto and decentralization going to play in both getting us to those products and kind of powering them?
Yeah, I want to give an answer that maybe hasn't been said before just to make this more entertaining. And so I think the thing that in AI is going to work, that's the question, right? Okay. That's going to work is, to Haseeb's part, maybe not in the next year or two, but definitely in a decade, are these brain models. It's something I've been spending a stupid amount of time on over the last, I don't know, definite month, but I've been looking into it for years, and something that I spent a lot of graduate time on. And I think that crypto is going to play a huge part in this, because the long story short is we don't have enough data on neural activity to train a brain model today. And one thing that crypto is really good at is incentivizing people to aggregate data, like with what Vanna's doing. And so I'm super convinced that there's going to be a DeepIn network to collect this data. And from there, we'll have a model that can actually unlock things like mind reading, as crazy as that sounds. And yeah, maybe it isn't tomorrow, but in a decade, I'm very, very confident it will work.
So yeah, applications, I think we all know the obvious answers, which is, engineer, accountant, lawyer, girlfriend, maybe in reverse order. But I think whatever, that's an obvious answer. Everyone's already heard it. You don't need to hear it from me. I think one interesting answer that I think that crypto maybe plays a bigger role. I was talking earlier about this idea of like NPC models. Okay, now what do I mean by NPC models? There are some models in the world that are going to have a lot of private information about you, probably your lawyer, your accountant, your girlfriend. But there are a lot of models that let me give you an example that is very top of mind for me right now is Polymarket. Okay, so Polymarket, prediction market, you know and love it. Polymarket, there's a lot of drama every week. They're always in my DMs about some market resolved in a way that was unintuitive. Okay, and so the latest drama, I don't know if you guys have followed this. The latest drama is that there's a prediction market on, did Zelensky wear a suit? Okay, did anyone see this? Anyone follow this? Okay, we got a few people. So Zelensky one day wore like a coat, and the New York Times called it a suit, but it was very clearly like a coat. It was like cold outside, and but people said like, oh, he wore a suit, but then like the UMA is the resolver, and the resolver said no, it's not a suit, and like everyone's super mad, and they're like, oh, the UMA cabal is making us lose this bet. I can't believe UMA's rigged. And so anyway, there's all this stupid drama over stuff like this, and there was another one recently when about Powell, because very often Polymarket has these bets on will this person in this speech say these words, and Powell, there was a bet on whether he would say the word judge, and Powell said the word judges as a verb. Like somebody judges, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, did he use the word judge? And Polymarket said no, because it was a noun, not a verb, and da-da-da-da, and everyone got really mad. Okay, so right now, this oracle is extremely opaque. But one can imagine a world where we want to know, maybe like the real oracle that's neutral and that everyone thinks is fair is an AI that we all agree to in advance. That AI is going to decide whether or not this thing was correct or incorrect. The problem with that is that it's very difficult to neutrally observe, is this AI, and did you call it correctly? There's randomness when you actually call an AI, right? They intentionally actually introduce randomness when you call GPT-4. You're not going to get the same output every single time. So I think there are going to be these sort of NPC AIs that don't have any private information, and we don't actually care whether or not you can see all the weights, all the stuff that's going on inside. But it's very important that everyone agree this is the AI and it's being neutrally called. I almost, the analogy I give is like lighthouses, right? Lighthouses are this sort of public good that everyone needs to know how they work. Everyone needs to be able to rely on them. But we very few of the infrastructure in the world looks like a lighthouse. It's actually quite rare, right? But Polymarket is a perfect example of the kind of neutral intelligence that you want to be out there in the world. And someday you can even imagine things like arbitration, that like it's very expensive to get a human judge. That's actually what happens today, is that when you have a legal dispute and you agree to go to arbitration is basically just a private judge, right? It's literally what they do. It's like we both agree to do whatever this guy says. This guy's the arbiter. And the reason why you do that is because lawyers and judges in courtrooms are fucking expensive and they're slow and they suck. And so let's just it's kind of like paying a private military, right? It's like, because the real military sucks and it's slow and expensive. So an even cheaper version of arbitration will be AI arbitration. That we'll just give all the information to the AI and we'll let the AI do it. But we have to prove that the AI did what it's supposed to do, and we have to know it's the model, and you didn't cherry pick the model in advance. We all know what the model was, but we didn't pre-run our inputs and see who won, right? That really does require a neutral substrate. And this kind of stuff is a perfect use case for crypto. But as always, it's a little early to rush toward that thing right now, but I think we will get there.
Cool. You kind of touched on this already on like changing your mind over the past couple of years, but I wanted to ask like, what did you get wrong in the past few years about AI? And then also give you the opportunity to each give each other a compliment on what the other got right. Because I know you guys talk about stuff like this.
I think Casey should compliment me first.
Okay, yes. There's many things I could compliment Haseeb about, both inside and outside of crypto and AI. But I do think that you have been extremely thoughtful and accurate in understanding the large picture of what is going to transpire. And so even just having the foresight, like a lot of people in this subdomain both maybe believed in it at the wrong time or wrote it off at the wrong time. But overall, if you look back, I mean, we've known each other for so long. You're one of the only investors that has gotten it right at a large scale from a vision standpoint.
From a vision standpoint?
Yeah. Yep.
What about the vision do you think I got right?
I think that because you're such a critical thinker, like if you think you know something, the first person you should call is Haseeb because you will quickly realize you're wrong for X number of reasons. He's like a living GAN that just like rips into anything and can give you almost like a debate thing. Like you are the judge, you are the walking judge. And so because you go about life just constantly questioning, it leads to a vision that's quite robust and doesn't have many holes in it. And so you don't have a lot of logic breaks. And I think that's more of a broad statement, but I can give you more concrete examples. That's in an abstract sense, what I think is really unique to you because it pays dividends over not just this era, but over many cycles and will continue to pay dividends.
Very sweet of you. Thank you.
And just the compliment should be on getting something right over a period of time. So that was good. Yeah, just not a general compliment.
Wait, hold on. You're not complimenting. Why are you complimenting?
No, I'm not. So now you compliment Casey,
okay.
but specifically on like predictions being right.
We got a complimenting triangle.
More concrete, or you like it, Anna? Was that good?
I would prefer more concrete, but it's a good one. So yeah.
She's criticizing your compliment.
Well, no, I will just say though, I think we're at like Near's open source summit, and Haseeb was a very early believer in Near.
I was a seed investor in Near.
And that's extremely impressive because many people saw that, didn't see the potential, and here we are speaking at their summit. How many years later?
What has this been? 7 years?
7 years.
7 years? Yeah, I think 7 years. Okay, so now I have to compliment you.
I Venmo'd you already, so don't worry.
What's that?
I Venmo'd you, so I Venmo'd you.
I can barely hear you. There's like a fucking dinosaur behind us or something. I don't know what's going on.
We'll skip it.
Okay. So what is great about Casey? So one thing I think that is really good about Casey is that a lot of investors in this industry hedge very aggressively. But Casey has always been one of these people who just knows when it's time to go all in. I think she also believes very deeply in so for example, something like topology. So topology is the firm that she's building. And the thesis of topology is about the intersection of crypto and AI, crypto individually, AI individually, and the whole Venn diagram, right? And there's a lot of people I know who've been kind of hanging around the hoop being like, oh yeah, AI is cool, crypto's cool. But they're like, well, if I get it wrong, I kind of want to still be able to do like fintech deals or whatever, right? Like, and the reality in life is that almost all of the gains in life go to people who actually take the fucking leap. And even if you're wrong, you will be forgiven as long as you have the energy level to keep going and to pick yourself up and to go do the next thing. And that is one thing that I've been very impressed to see Casey do, to put herself out there, like take a bunch of risks with her career. Because Casey, look, I got into crypto barely. Like by the skin of my teeth, right? Like I had no formal education in anything technical. I I used to be a professional poker player. I've had all sorts of weird episodes in my life. People look at me and they're like, who are you? Why are you here? And I managed to make it. Casey was like fucking minted. She went to Harvard. She worked at Google. She's like a badass. And most people who do that never go this hard. in betting on something with their whole career and with like every fiber of what they do. Casey does that. And I think it's super impressive.
Thank you, Haseeb. And my joke was that I already Venmo'd you.
You already what?
Venmo'd, like send you money.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Very sweet.
Thank you for the thoughtful interlude. That was good.
I like, we should do more love fests on stage. I really like that.
Appreciation
I really like
circle.
that. I feel so good now.
We've been debating, the three of us, is whether intelligence will matter in a world where AI is basically smarter than all of us.
Intelligence in what sense?
Yeah, you can take it.
Intelligence, to be clear, the question is, when you're looking at a founder in a post-AI world, does intelligence as a quality in a founder matter as much as it used to?
I think this is such bullshit. I think most people, the common thing to say is no. They think, oh, well, now we're not going to need software engineers because Cursor's going to write all our code, and we just need visionaries, or we actually just need BD people or people that will build distribution. I think that is so wrong as a concept. I think you're almost looking for the exact same archetype, which is extremely smart, extremely action-oriented, has a high bar for excellence, all of those things. The only thing, or the thing that to me matters more now than ever before, is speed. Because there is no moat. The moat is how fast you can build. Everybody's eating everyone's lunch. And so even if you're a few years ago, if you were a slower mover founder, maybe you could make it because competition wasn't moving as fast. And now that's the big delta of what we're looking for, is like people who are surprised that you can ship a product in 2 weeks, we don't want to talk to you, because I think you absolutely can. And if that's not your mode, you're not going to be able to win. But it like drives me crazy when people say that engineers are going to zero right now. Because even though in the long run, I agree, I think timing is so important for everyone in this room, whether you're a builder, whether you're an investor, you need to get timing right or you're wrong. And I will tell you right now, and for the next 6 months, I'm not going to comment beyond that, being an engineer is absolutely crucial. You have more power now than ever before. It's the best time in the world to be an engineer. And it is absolutely the type of founder we're still looking for.
So this is okay. So it's definitely true that intelligence has not become useless. On a relative basis, though, how has the value of intelligence changed? I think that the value of curiosity has gone up a lot, because if you are curious and you also here's the thing, everybody now has access to like Aristotle, right? Everybody now has access to Aristotle. Like the smartest human. I remember, reading about Alexander the Great, the world's greatest conqueror. What did he do? He was like, you know what? Instead of just killing all the Greeks, we're going to get their smartest guy and he's going to just teach me shit. And I'm like, okay, that's you now. You are now Alexander the Great. You have the smartest thing we've ever created available to you. What are you doing with it? And what Alexander the Great said is like, I'm going to conquer even more stuff. I'm going to get even smarter and even wiser, and I'm going to conquer fucking everybody. The question is, what are you going to do with it? And most people, the answer is not very much. I'm going to ask it how to write my business emails. That's the answer. That's as much as they came up with of what they're going to do with the smartest thing they've ever found. And, or they're going to ask it to be their therapist or, be their girlfriend. Which, whatever, right? Like human nature. But I think the question that resonates the most with me is not what changes in founders, because the honest answer is not very much, right? It's way too early. Like I said, 2 years, 10 years. Right now, building a startup is actually really not that different. Now use Cursor instead of whatever IDE you were using, or use Claude Code. But as when you actually building something really big, you can't really use agents to write it for you. You still got to write the fucking code. You still need to hire engineers. You still need to do all this stuff. Maybe in 5 years that changes. Maybe in 3 years that changes. But right now it hasn't changed. And if you're a startup, you don't get to think about 5 years. You don't even get to think about 3 years,
Plus
right?
one.
You got to think about it right the fuck now. So if you're a founder and you're getting investment from us, I don't care whether your skills are going to change in 5 years. But you care. And I think about this too as an investor, of how does my relationship with intelligence, with my own intelligence, with curiosity, with my own curiosity, how does that change? And am I really changing as much as I should? Right? Like I used to, when I was younger, I would fantasize about, someday I'm going to be rich and retire, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to buy a yacht and do whatever, just turn into a pumpkin the way that all these rich guys seem to. I'm instead going to assemble the smartest professors from around the world and have them teach me, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if I would still do that now, but like when I was younger, that's what I would tell myself. And like, I can just do that. You can just sit at home or like turn on ChatGPT voice mode and like talk to the smartest professor in the world all day long. And the question is like, why am I not doing that? One answer to that question might be that it's actually not as good as I thought it was. And that maybe that's the reason why really rich people don't do that, right? Like, I don't know anybody really rich who spends all their time having professors regaling them with stories. Professors don't get a lot of phone calls from billionaires, but maybe there is something that is like that I should be doing that I'm not doing. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
That's really interesting. Anna and I talk a ton about opening a lab when we're older, and we could just do it now. And we haven't yet. Maybe, you never know. But I really like that point. I don't have an answer of why we don't do it. And I wonder if it's just that we adapt so quickly, but it is pretty crazy. I mean, we have these incredibly powerful computers in our pockets at all time. Now we have a ridiculously searchable, vast amount of information, and yet we're all just using it instead of, Google searches cooked, and that's kind of the world. That's it. But I think that in this next era, when we really do connect like scripts and traditional APIs to LLMs, like I still don't think we've seen the arc of that yet. People can call them agents or whatever you want, but it is that the LLM to me still isn't fully integrated into our own lives, where like creation isn't happening yet from them. I think that's something I'm extremely high conviction on that a lot of people aren't. A lot of people that I talk to say if it's not in the data, it can't do it. And they believe that these models are just predicting next characters. I am much more of the believer that we will have novel scientific discoveries from these LLMs and beyond LLMs. And I think that it's going to rock our world in terms of what they can do. And so maybe that's kind of the forcing function we haven't seen yet when they're more autonomous.
Yeah, possible.
I have just some kind of like short answer questions about how, kind of predictions about the future and how you use AI. How many hours a day do you each spend just talking to AIs?
I can't. Maybe 20, 30 minutes. What? Wait, is that low or high?
Low.
That's low?
You're not using a note taker?
No, I don't use any note takers, any AI note takers.
All right.
But that's inflating your numbers. That doesn't really count.
No.
You're not talking to it.
You said using, right?
Yeah, using AI or like, I guess, talking to an AI or using some kind of AI powered product.
Using an AI note taker does not count.
Come on, Anna, does it
it's
count?
like, okay, you 5 hours a day because the AI is listening to your notes.
I just want to accurately answer the question.
All right, fine. Okay, all right.
The goal is kind of to show
you get
like
5 hours.
usage.
Okay, great.
Like,
good for you.
No.
All your Zoom calls.
No, my biggest genuine AI usage right now is this CRM thing that we built at Topology, and I talk to it all day, and it's my network manager. So that's probably like an hour a day, and then ChatGPT 30 minutes, and then my note taker. That's the honest truth.
I actually thought it would be higher. But so foundation models 2 years out, do you think the leading model will be centralized, or will it be trained in some decentralized way?
Centralized.
What you said.
And then when do you think we'll see the first crypto AI product that hits 10 million users, and what will it be?
Vana for sure.
Vana for sure. Definitely Vana.
Great
Definitely
answer.
Vana.
She's the founder of Vana, by the way.
Very
Definitely
good
Vana.
answer. And then I wanted to zoom a little bit more into the stack, kind of out of the short answer questions. So between research, compute, and data, what do you think the core differentiator is?
Between research, compute, and data, what is the core differentiator?
Yeah, kind of if you think about making better and better AI models, what's the thing in the long run that matters the most? Or you could also just say it's the product or something else.
Probably research. I would guess research.
I think it depends. I think it's not compute because compute is commoditized. I love thinking back to the moment in Silicon Valley when we were like, we need H100s and everyone was paying a stupid amount, but we're over that. And I don't think we're going to go back there.
Now it's power, right? Now it's power.
It is. It is shifted. But I don't think it's compute. I think in general, we'll have access to that. I think it switches between data and research depending where you're building. Like what makes Cursor valuable is not what makes OpenAI valuable. That's different.
Yeah. So I think obviously data is very important. It does feel like we're moving more and more towards synthetic data, in which case, okay, the difficulty is not where's the data, but how do you generate the data? And how do you generate the data is ultimately a research problem. So I think I'm right.
It's not a bad argument, but I'd be curious when you say we're moving more and more towards synthetic data, what stats do you have on that?
So, I mean, if you look at the RL paradigm, the RL paradigm is really only really working in these verifiable domains, right? We've kind of like, AIs are not getting any better at writing essays. They're not getting any better at writing poetry, right? We've kind of plateaued to this is as good as they're probably ever going to get at writing poetry. Maybe, I don't know, but that's what it seems like. And you can see actually that the model sizes have stopped growing, right? People no longer brag about, oh, we've got even more, this model is this big, it's even bigger than the last one. People don't say that anymore because nobody cares, because you can't determine any effect on, like if you look at XAI, right? XAI was kind of playing this like, oh, we're just like kind of hilariously big, and that's why we're a better model. And nobody perceives that. Nobody was like, yeah, Grok 2 was so amazing because it was such a big model. And so people realize that we're hitting the limitations on what you can do with just making these things better and better at predicting next tokens on text. You need some kind of verifiability. And those verifiable domains are where we're getting these really big improvements in things like math, things like coding, things like physical simulations. We still have not gotten very far there, but I'm sure that we will in, being able to navigate simulated spaces and things like this. Fei-Fei Li is working on trying to do this with video game environments and so on.
GRPO era.
Yeah, exactly. So Tarun was just talking about GRPO. Where's Tarun? He's gone. Okay. Doesn't care about us. But this domain, I think we're going to be in for a long time because AI keeps doing this thing where it hits a scaling law, and the scaling law keeps working and working and working, and then it kind of stops and it's like, oh wait, this is not really getting any farther. But then we find a new dimension of scaling. We're like, oh great, let's just keep going. And so we started with we're going to do. We're gonna start with just pure LLMs, and we're like, okay, well they're kind of plateauing, they're not getting any better at poetry. It's like, okay, well no, chain of thought. Okay, great. This is great. We're gonna start thinking. Thinking is great. And then this is kind of not getting any better. They're not thinking anymore about stuff. Okay, but verifiable RL. Oh great. And we're in this great moment right now, and maybe we'll plateau, and maybe we'll hit this point where it's like, okay, well they don't seem to be getting that much better at coding. They don't seem to get better from math, and then we'll hit some new research breakthrough.
Did you see the paper from Stella Lee on random rewards, basically?
No, I did not.
The paper's called Spurious Rewards, if anyone's interested. But they basically took a Quinn model, and then they just gave it, in like GRPO, the thinking tag. Okay, and then it's like the reward. It just randomly rewarded based on not having the right answer, and it still did just as well as if
wow.
You did? And then they couldn't. So for a moment on Twitter, this was really interesting because it was basically saying, people drew it back to Homo sapiens. So they were like, wow, this is how we work. We actually don't need to know if we get the data right or wrong in life. We just need to keep going and be rewarded along the way. And we're going to get better and better and learn.
Wow.
And then they tried to reproduce it with llama and they couldn't. And so there's something off with the Quinn model.
I've had bosses like that.
What?
I've had bosses like that gave me random rewards.
And how did it work out?
Not well. So maybe I don't know about this paradigm. Anyway, I think we're over time.
Yeah, we're over time, and I think Casey's got to go to the airport.
Yes.
Thank you for your thoughtful, candid answers.
The dinosaur is getting angry, so I think it's time for us to go. Thanks, everybody.
Perfect.
Thank you.